In Unit 5, the final section, we're going to bring all the learning together, and we're going to share with you some fascinating and I think interesting case studies relating to crime and terrorist activity. There's an awful lot to be learned from history, and the hope and expectation is by analysing the notifications that are provided by law enforcement agencies, we can pick the bones of what really went on, how virtual currency was used. That will cement our understanding and learning from the earlier units and ensure that we're appropriately informed to meet that challenge going forward. We'll also include in there some recent enforcement action where regulators frankly have cast an opinion that the firm did not meet their rules and regulations. Rarely do we get insights into what regulators require, and so those enforcement action and notification provide excellent information that we're going to share with you in this section. For me, I think it has to be Liberty Reserve. Going back to 2013, there's a wonderful story, for all the wrong reasons, which points to how you can use virtual currency with a high degree of anonymity beyond the borders of the regulated sector. At a time where, frankly, the regulated sector might have considered we had a good degree of understanding and control of the movement of illicit value around the world. It's a story which talks to the use of accounts in the name of Joe Bogus, client addresses which are fake streak, client names which is the Russian mafia. It is an absolutely fascinating case story of how to use virtual currencies in a very transparent and obvious way, it has to be said. The law enforcement action which was taken to bring that to an end is wonderful in equal measure, because it then demonstrates what could go wrong and how to counter those risks. That said, each of the case stories has been selected and presented because each offers a different insight into how criminals think, how criminals go about their activities. Very simply, learning from history will define our future objectives and success. The ability to draw upon the news and information that's shared with us in the public domain is really very helpful, because it's at that point we can translate the theory into what really is happening. And if I was to draw a parallel story today, we'd point to the prosecution of peer-to-peer exchanges, for example, in the United States of America, as an example of how some activities which in the past may have been considered perfectly acceptable, we're now learning, because of regulatory invention, aren't acceptable, are higher risk. We are dealing with a constantly evolving market and threat, and our ability to monitor and keep abreast of regulatory enforcement action is fundamental to maintaining a high level of state of awareness and readiness to meet the challenges of financial crime compliance. Hopefully now you've completed the bulk of your reading and you've completed the manual review. And so hopefully you're at a high level of readiness and comfort to meet the challenge of the timed 25-question assessment. What we'd recommend is, prior to taking the final assessment, you do take the opportunity to look at the sample multiple choice question that's been provided to enable you to benchmark your awareness and your readiness for the final assessment. Set the time aside, the 1 hour that's required, set the environment that supports your success, and take the assessment. The final assessment for some people can cause a high degree of excitement, nerves and tension. We perfectly understand and appreciate that for some people in particular, going through a process of assessment may be something you haven't experienced for quite some time. Let me give you some assurance. The assessment is a timed measure of your knowledge. It is 25 questions that are structured to help you to share with us your knowledge. There are no tricks in the questions. We are acutely aware that for some people, English may not be the first language, and so the questions have been simplified in their structure. The questions do cover the whole syllabus. That may be a repetitive statement throughout the whole of these webinars. Having completed the manual reading and the full extent of the syllabus, it's really quite important then that you set aside some time and an environment where you'll be free from disruption. It's time to the extent of 1 hour, so once you press start, you cannot stop the clock. But it's plenty of time, more than sufficient for you to answer 25 questions. But please do be selfish and ensure that there are no disruptions. So avoid the temptation to do it at your work desk, in your workplace. And if you're performing it at home, which most people tend to do, interestingly, then let the family know and your friends know what you're doing so that you're not disrupted. You are able to use your notes, so organize them. But you cannot have the system open on two systems and access to the materials whilst performing the assessment for fairly obvious reasons. We do need to maintain the integrity of the assessment process. The vast majority, reassuringly I hope, of delegates who complete the assessment are successful at the first attempt. However, it is important we recognise that some people don't quite meet the measure of success at 80%. When that happens, if that happens, then you'll be afforded some time to reflect upon what went well and to complete some further revision. Having completed that further revision, then you can re-engage and take the assessment again. The questions will be different, drawn from the database. Passing the benchmark of success at 80% will offer you, first of all, a certificate of recognition from the University of Gloucestershire, which we believe is very nice, very powerful, and a kite mark of success. It also offers you the designation Advanced Cert CV to use on your LinkedIn profiles, your business cards. Actually, we believe that's really very important because at a time when it's never been more important to have a demonstrable record of achievement in virtual currency risk management, then I believe it will be supportive of your professional development. And to be honest, we rather hope that designation, that recognition, will support you in your further career enhancement and of course reward and recognition. But fundamentally, you'll be afforded the time and support during that program and that process to support your success. So my final thoughts in true Jerry Springer style. I really do, genuinely, we really do, hope and expect that you enjoy the learning and the empowerment that it provides. I genuinely believe, having made a significant contribution to the content of this material, that at the end of the learning you'll be able to reflect upon a great deal of new information and awareness in managing the important risks of financial crime relating to virtual currencies. And quite frankly, we need you. You know, the fight against crime is so serious, so important, that we believe that people who pass through this program will be able to make a far greater contribution in the fight against crime and make a real difference in society and more broadly in the regulated sector. So enjoy the learning and enjoy the empowerment that brings, hopefully comfort and confidence. And if you do have any concerns, as we've said all the way through, please don't hesitate to contact us. But for now at least, thank you and good luck.